What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great weekend out there so far. There is a lot to talk about in this morning's video, and the first thing we'll speak on is the tropics. So we're going to do this video a little bit different compared to kind of the general flow of the videos as of late. And this will probably be the theme of the videos for the next, probably for the foreseeable future, as I do think the tropics is going to be a pretty heavy weather topic over the next several days or so. So we're going to give you the information that we have on this. The National Hurricane Center has dubbed an area of interest in areas of the Gulf. So we're going to talk about what's driving this, the chances of it developing. We'll give you the National Hurricane Center's chances of it developing, and I'll give you my take on it also. The next name up is Dexter. Are we going to end up getting a tropical storm Dexter? I think we have a possibility of it. Right now it's a low possibility, but I think that there is a decent shot at that over the next several days. So we're going to speak on it, compare model guidance and all that good stuff for you, and then we'll talk about today's weather. We'll zoom into many states to run the higher risk of strong to severe thunderstorm activity and flash flooding. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. So let's get rocking and rolling. So this is what's going on right now in areas of the Gulf, the Caribbean, off the coast of the Southeast. So I want you to put your eyes on this right here off the coast of the Southeast, Georgia, the Carolinas, Florida, etc. So it looks like we had just a complex of storms, energy in the atmosphere that is now dumped over the open waters off the coast of the Southeast. And we're seeing these colors in like reds, orange, black. This indicates colder cloud tops, so stronger convection, taller updrafts. The taller they are, the higher up they get, obviously, and the higher up you get, the colder it gets. So this is indicated by the colors here. Now, of course, your eyes probably want to go to this too, what's going on in Texas. There is ongoing flash flooding once again in central Texas. It is north of the Kerrville area, but we will speak on that when we break down today's weather. But that is an ongoing situation itself. But let's focus on the tropics for now. But this is the energy right here. And let's go on and draw on this a little bit. Let's see if we got the right color. Yeah, that works. This is the energy right here that could swing over Florida and get over the open waters of the northern Gulf and then have a chance to develop maybe somewhere into here. And eventually, this energy will most likely kind of go right back into the Gulf coastline and then move inland. And this is going to have the opportunity to dump a lot of rain, of course, across Florida. Okay, but it's also going to have an opportunity to dump a lot of rain across the Gulf coastline, points a little bit inland. But this could change. Okay, but this is kind of what we're watching. And the reason this is pivoting in kind of a weird directional flow compared to what we normally see is because it's rotating around upper ridging. So it's just kind of swinging down like this around some sort of upper high pressure right into here. So this is going to be the main topic. Just kind of wanted to show you what it looks like on the board here. So let's continue to move forward here. Now this is the latest from the National Hurricane Center. Let's give you some update information. We always miss the 8 a.m. update, so this is the 1 a.m. update, but there's another update that will come out in about an hour. But right now there's a 20% chance of tropical development within the next 7 days in that yellow area. When I say tropical development, I mean into a system that has a defined low-level circulation, which could make it a tropical depression or a tropical storm. Next name is Dexter. What I think they'll do is at the 8 a.m. update or maybe the 2 p.m. update today, they'll bump this from a 20 to a 30% chance. And they might even bump it as high as a 40% chance, and that would make this area in yellow turn to orange, and it would be considered what we call a medium chance of developing. But I do think we will get a bump up from a 20 to a 30% chance probably in the next update. So if you watch the video, you're like, Mitch, it's not 20, it's 30 now. Trust me, I see it. I'm a weather geek, so I'm definitely going to be looking for the latest information. But right now it's a 20% chance. I do think it'll bump up. So let's move past this and let's look at some model guides. So this is the latest, I believe this is the latest. I think I meant to pull up the GFS here first. Yeah, so this is the latest GFS model. All right, we're going to start off tomorrow morning. 12ZMON stands for Zulu time for tomorrow morning. It does show an L on your screen. I wouldn't really focus so much on the L right now. I just want you to watch how all the moisture sort of dances around across Florida. and the Gulf coastline. So we do move this into, Tuesday morning. Come on, get in motion here. And once again, just some moisture. Nothing, popping on your screen that really catches your eye necessarily, right? Even I can admit that. And we continue to get this moving here, and we get Tropical Tidbits is moving a little bit slow this morning, and they've been having issues, so that stinks. I feel bad for Levi. He runs this site, and is definitely something that is very important for hurricane season. So hopefully he gets it going. But we start to get into, say, man, it is really moving slow here. I'm sorry, guys, but we start to move. So I actually had to pause the video just to see what was going on, and I just think the site's having some issues right now. But, we start to get into Wednesday morning. Sorry about the uneven flow of this video. It happens sometimes. It's not always going to be super crisp, but there's something going on here. There's a lower pressure right down here, and as we start to get into, say, Wednesday afternoon here in the next few days, there ain't a whole lot that shows up, right? There's nothing that really says, hey, where's the, that's the tropical system, but it does throw a slug of moisture into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, the panhandle of Florida. And, as we start to get to the middle of the night, say, Wednesday night into Thursday, it shows a big blob of moisture just getting pushed into the Gulf states here. But, it never really develops anything that's eye-catching, right? I know when you put this at first glance. Now, I will back this up, and I'll put this more into a continuous motion, if you will. And if you do that, you can just see the motion of the moisture that kind of goes from this area kind of into this area. So, that's the general flow. It's starting off the coast of the southeast over Florida, over the northern waters of the Gulf here. Now, you switch it to the Euro. What does it say? Once again, we'll start off for tomorrow morning. Hopefully we can get this in motion a little bit better. And we start to get to tomorrow around midday. We got a weak low pressure showing up over Florida. This is bringing tons of shower and storm activity, tropical moisture. And then we start to move this into, say, Tuesday. Okay, and we do have a lot of tropical moisture right down here over the Gulf. And then we start to move into, say, Wednesday morning, and here it is. And you can see it, just a lot of shower and storm, downpour activity, really just hanging out over the northern Gulf. But it doesn't really, organize anything that's, like I've said a few times already, that really just catches your eye. And eventually, whatever energy is there, by the time we get into Thursday morning of this work week, kind of moves into the central, somewhere into the Gulf coastline. So does it develop anything that makes it reach tropical storm status? Now, if you remember when we were going over the days leading up to Chantal, model guidance really didn't show anything that told us that we were going to end up getting a tropical storm. So, we look at this model guidance, but we actually have to look at what's going on also in the environmental conditions. Do they support, a strengthening tropical system or a strengthening depression into a tropical storm? We can look at this model guidance, but in general, you look at the pattern, how this energy is going to kind of ride over areas, open waters. These open waters are in the 80s, things like that, and that tells us that, hey, there is a chance for this to develop. Now, I will show you the icon. The icon is a bit aggressive, and it's been aggressive since last night. Once again, we'll start off from Monday morning. We get this in motion. Takes that low pressure and a lot of unsettled weather right over Florida as we get into Tuesday. And we get into Wednesday, and this thing quickly tries to get its act together. This is Wednesday, and all of a sudden we have a 1010 millibar low. This looks like at least a tropical depression to me. And then we start to get into, say, Thursday morning, and we already, all of a sudden, we have a 1,003 millibar low pressure. This could very well be a tropical storm, which would be Dexter. And I mean, now this is, popping on your screen, right? You look at the Euro and the GFS, it does not pop on your screen at all. This does. I mean, your eyes go immediately to this thing right here. You can see the lines circling around it. That is a tropical system. And the last frame of this, which goes all the way to late Thursday night and Friday morning of this work week, drops it to a sub 1,000 millibar low, which would definitely make it a tropical storm heading right towards Louisiana. So based off model guidance, right, I would just be mindful across, obviously, Florida, but across this entire area right into here. Okay, we're definitely going to get tropical moisture over Florida, but this thing is not going to have time to develop over this region. But it will have a little bit of time to develop over this region. Okay, and eventually it's going to kind of pivot back into the Gulf coastline. Now, I'm not going to rule out the chance of it going into the Texas coastline. Cannot rule that out at all. But some sort of energy is going to go into the Gulf coastline, in my opinion. Whether it's just a big plume of rain and storm activity, or if it's an actual tropical storm, something's there. Now, if you look at the low-level energy in the atmosphere, 6,000 feet up in the air, and you see these areas of yellows, oranges, this tells us where the energy is in those lower levels of the atmosphere. And you watch for some rotation, so some cyclonic circulation down here. And you can see there is a little bit of a spin based off these wind barbs off the GFS. It ain't much, but it's there. Now, if you look at the more potent, if you will, icon, now this is only going to show us 500 millibars, so this is like 18,000 feet up in the air. But I mean, it gets a flat out spin going. You can see where that energy is clearly, and the rotation around it symbolizing some sort of tropical system. So we'll continue to roll here. Why is this going to go where it's going to go? Well, we'll start off tomorrow afternoon. You can't see it very well in the mid-levels. In the upper levels, you can. Some light upper ridging is sitting right over the deep south and the southeast, right? So this is streamlines, and this is like 40,000 feet up in the air, 200 millibars or so. So you can see how these streamlines are kind of going like this, and the arrows embedded in these lines, and they're going kind of like this, and they're kind of going like that. So that is why, that's the flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. That's why kind of our low pressure is going to kind of pivot down here. That's the flow around some sort of weak upper ridging right here in place over areas of the south. So you keep this in motion, and that's going to be the general flow for the life of whatever tropical system we end up getting. I mean, you can stop it here. This is Wednesday evening, and you can see what's going on in the upper levels. These lines with the arrows embedded in the upper levels of the atmosphere are going like this, and they shoot down like that, and then they go like this, and then they kind of bend back up. And that's why, you know, a lot of model guidance has something forming here, but then eventually kind of curving back into the Gulf coastlines, because the flow in the upper levels begins to move back north, kind of hook back over land, if you will. So I hope that makes sense. We'll be talking heavy on steering currents when we're really tracking a legitimate tropical system that's like one of those long tracking ones. But you know, one of the easiest things to kind of understand here, and a lot of people understand this, is how warm are the sea surface temperatures. Now, this is in Celsius, and I know this is showing 28s and 30s, but, you know, 28, 29, 30 degrees Celsius, you know, that pretty much goes to about the mid-80s in Fahrenheit. There is some upper 80s in Fahrenheit, like, you know, 86 to maybe as high as 90 degrees Fahrenheit here in the northern areas of the Gulf. And that's the thing, is the northern Gulf right now is some of the warmest water right now across the northern Atlantic, just in general. So our tropical system, if there is one, will go over this area right here, which is pretty much the warmest waters compared to everywhere else you see on your screen, outside of maybe this area right here in the Western Caribbean that always is very warm. I don't know if this is like a glitch in the matrix here, but this is kind of just a weird oddball warm spot, but it could be legitimately warm waters here. So it looks hot, but the northern Gulf is starting to turn into the, you know, the bathtub waters that it always does this time of the year, especially as you get late into July into August. So wrapping all that, you know, rambling up, the sea surface temperatures certainly support a tropical development. So rainfall between now and about this time next week, so 8 a.m. next Sunday, lots of rain across Florida. I mean, that's obvious. We're going to get 3 to as much as 5 inches of rain. These areas that you see in the yellows and orange, that's 5, 6, maybe as much as 7 inches of rain across areas of Florida, and especially central Florida points south. But one of the newer things we're seeing is we're starting to see more rain being forecast along the Gulf coastline now. So across these regions here, probably not the best color to use, and maybe not much better, but across these areas right here, now they're going for several inches of rain also. So if you're vacationing along the Gulf coastline this work week. I think the further you get into the work week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday, that's when you really got to pay attention to this. So a lot of rains will get thrown up against the Gulf coastline over the next several days from whatever tropical system we end up getting from this. Now, I will tell you, in my opinion, I think we're going to at least get a weak tropical storm out of this. I think we'll end up getting Dexter out of this. I think that the water is warm enough. I think it'll have a couple days over the northern Gulf. And if I had to answer the question and take a shot at this, I would say we're going to end up getting at least a weak tropical storm out of this Dexter. So we'll see what happens. It's definitely something to watch, and it helps us to, practice up and gear up for bigger systems down the road that it will likely and inevitably will come later in hurricane season. So, all right, let's talk about today's weather. Unfortunately, we do have an ongoing flash flooding situation, and this is north of Kerrville, but not too far north. But you see all these counties right here in Texas, well, not counties, but areas. These are flash flood warnings. We got it right here in southeast Oklahoma also. Not a whole lot going on out west or really anywhere else across the country. You see the moisture hanging out, off the coast of the southeast, but this is a serious situation ongoing right now in Texas. I'm not seeing a lot on social media, so hopefully, that doesn't always mean everything. We know that, but hopefully you guys are okay here in Central Texas. But there's a lot of rain, having a hard time scooting on out the way, that's for sure. But watches, warnings, and advisories, tons of flood watches across New Mexico, Texas, up into Oklahoma and areas of Arkansas. Flood watches are up also across New York State. We got heat advisories across central Georgia, the panhandle of Florida, and some southern counties here in Georgia also. Tons of heat advisories out west. Some extreme heat warnings, red flag warnings in the hot pink. So a lot of heat alerts out there right now. The chances of severe weather, as of right now, nobody has a slight risk, but we do have a marginal risk up here across areas of the upper Midwest. We have one down here in New Mexico, areas of Arizona, one that stretches across eastern Texas into Louisiana, Arkansas, extreme western areas of Tennessee and Mississippi, all the way up into areas of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and western Kentucky. Then we have another marginal risk across southern areas of Georgia into Florida, and we have a marginal risk that goes from North Carolina all the way up to the New York, Canada border. So a lot of little areas that have a risk of severe weather, and a lot of areas that have a risk of just thunderstorms in general. But the risk of flash flooding, once again, a lot of areas to speak on. New Mexico, 15% risk of flash flooding. Areas of Texas into eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, 15% risk of flash flood guidance being exceeded. And then we got this area across southern sections of the Midwest, Missouri, southern Illinois, southwest Indiana, very small section of western Kentucky, 15% risk of flash flooding. And then we got areas of the mid-Atlantic up into the northeast, 15% risk of flash flooding. So be aware of that. The southeast, a couple areas we'll zoom into, but we'll take it to about this afternoon. We got the pop-up thunderstorm activity across the south. You can see just the bubbles of green, yellow, orange, red, just pop-up tropical downpours. A lot of moisture organizing off the coast of the southeast from the tropical system that could get going over the northern Gulf as it swings through Florida. And then we take it to about this evening. We got a lot of thunderstorm activity across Florida. We got isolated, somewhat scattered stuff across the Carolinas, Virginia. And, I would watch out for some stuff that could hit more so severe limits across areas of western Tennessee and western Kentucky and western Mississippi. But just take a closer look at, say, Florida here. We'll start off around 3 p.m. and, right when we get to about 5, 6, 7 o'clock, look at all this thunderstorm activity across the panhandle of Florida. So if you're in this area, expect a stormy evening. Who doesn't love a nice stormy Sunday evening? I think Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening is one of the best days to get a thunderstorm. I don't know why, just something about the vibe. But, as we're starting to get to 7, 8 o'clock, these storms could pack a punch from Gainesville, Daytona Beach, Orlando. Anywhere really in Florida today. But this is about where they'll be around 8, 9 o'clock. And then we'll drop it to 10, 11, 12. And then we get to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and then we're waking up tomorrow morning. So a lot of rain across some of these areas. And we will look at how much rainfall is forecast between now and tomorrow evening. And a lot of rain across Florida. If you live in the purple regions, over an inch of rain. The red areas, that's 2 inches of rain. So in general, about 1 to as much as 2.5 inches of rain from Gainesville Point south. Anybody could see it. And then we head on up to North Carolina, Virginia. We do have a marginal risk in place, and we get to this afternoon, and we're just going to get some thunderstorms that are going to develop for certain areas. But you can see they're very pop-up in nature. Not everybody's getting them. It's going to be tough to figure out who sees them, who doesn't. This is around 7 p.m. It certainly favors the Piedmont, North Carolina, and to western Virginia, but we do have some storms in southeast North Carolina. We're going to get some storms down to South Carolina also. But we continue to move forward here, and maybe some heavier rains. Watch out for a little flash flooding up here in northern Virginia later tonight. This is 1 o'clock in the morning. We just got stuff just sort of hanging around here. So be aware of the flash flooding. Guys, we're in mid-July. I mean, the atmosphere is loaded with moisture everywhere. So these storms, these what we call precipitation values, are very high. So the atmosphere is basically going to, when it's super humid outside and you get a storm, the atmosphere is going to squeeze out so much more moisture. When you get a storm and maybe the dew points are in the 60s, it's a lot different than when you get a storm and the dew points are in the 70s. Think more moisture in the atmosphere, more moisture is going to come out these storms. And we're pretty much, in my opinion, we're getting close to the dog days of summer. A lot of moisture in the atmosphere, a lot of heat instability out there. It doesn't take much to get isolated flash flooding. Now, northeast today, we'll get into about 3, 4, 5 o'clock. You see the storms forming from the Finger Lakes up to the Tug Hill Plateau, the Adirondacks. They get more widespread in nature. We take it to about 7, 8 o'clock. You see the storms crossing PA, Maryland, all the way up into eastern Canada. And then we get into the overnight hours, and these storms are still lingering around. And then they'll start to lose some punch as we wake up tomorrow morning. But, taking a closer look at, say, Maryland, surrounding states, D.C. corridor, we get to about 6 o'clock. You see the storms near Cumberland, eastern West Virginia. And then we get to about 9 o'clock. Watch out, Winchester, Hagerstown. Some storms could be clustering up around that area. And then it might take all the way until tonight before these storms even have a chance to get to the D.C. Baltimore area. But what I've noticed is model guidance is definitely going to struggle with this. We could easily get pop-up thunderstorms across Maryland, Delaware, even this afternoon, even though this specific model ain't showing much. But, the HRRR model is liking the idea of some heavy rain setting up in northern Virginia later tonight. So just be aware of that. Now we're taking on up the road to PA. And we start off around midday, and just watch out for a kind of a broken line of thunderstorms that could form in central PA today, State College, Williamsport. And this will eventually drift into the eastern sections of the state. Harrisburg could get some storms, and then we can get into Hazleton, Scranton. This is around 11 o'clock. This eventually could try to sneak into the Philadelphia area, but this specific model run doesn't ever get it there. So, might not. It might do it. It might not. But then we get into tomorrow morning. Still have some scattered downpours out there. And then we take a look at New York State, midday. We get into this afternoon. Look at the storms firing up Rochester, Syracuse, Tug Hill, Watertown. And then we start to get into 6 o'clock. A lot of storm activity over the Tug Hill Plateau based off this model run. And then we start to get into, say, 8 o'clock. Still just getting a lot of storms, maybe from Binghamton, Ithaca, Syracuse, all the way up into the Adirondacks. A lot of storm activity. And this activity will have a hard time having that, west to east push to it. So it'll kind of be moving diagonally, if you will, like more so over the same areas. So some of these regions in interior New York State could get a lot of rain over the next 24 hours. In fact, I think you guys do have that slight risk, and we're going to show how much rain you guys could get over the next 36 hours or so. And you can see there's pockets in and around from Ithaca up to Rochester, Syracuse, up to the Tug Hill. They could get 1 to as much as 2 inches of rain. A purple area, that's 1 inch. You get into the red, that's 2 inches of rain. So a lot of rain could fall in these areas today, so be aware of that. Now the south central U.S., we're getting all this nasty rain right now in central Texas. So we take it to about midday. We're still going to have thunderstorms. I think eventually this will sneak down into the San Antonio area, the Kerrville region, See the thunderstorms in Arkansas, pop-up activity in Louisiana, a lot of pop-up downpours in eastern Oklahoma, Missouri. And then we continue to move into this afternoon. A lot of thunderstorm activity across New Mexico. Heavy rains. Watch out for flash flooding there. And then we start to get into this evening. You see some thunderstorms across eastern Texas, and then a big slug of moisture will push into southwest Arkansas probably later tonight. And then we wake up tomorrow morning with some more moisture across Arkansas. But just taking a closer look at some of these areas, northern Texas first. All that energy that we have right now in central Texas will continue to break apart or split apart, hopefully. Sometimes it has a hard time doing it just because there's so much moisture in the atmosphere. But we get into 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Atmosphere finally begins to recover. So College Station up to Tyler, Texarkana, Mary, you could get some heavy rain today in northeast Texas. Some storms will begin to fire. This is 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11, and then we get into the overnight hours, and things look to calm down for the most part. But showing San Antonio, Kerrville, I believe, right into this area, so around 11 a.m., could get some downpours. Could get definitely some, maybe even as much as an inch of rain. We don't need any rain in that area. But kind of the leftovers of this energy will make it all the way down to San Antonio, probably Houston, and that corridor later tonight. And then eventually we get into 10 p.m., and this energy might just stall out and start dancing around this area down here. So a little bit of a flash flooding situation could get going here in South Texas, but hopefully not. And then we look at Louisiana, 1 p.m., just scattered tropical downpours and storms dancing around. These could produce heavy rains. It's just trying to figure out exactly where they form. And then we get into the overnight hours. And, the one thing with Louisiana is it really doesn't show anything organized at all. But then we look at Arkansas, 10 a.m., does show some storms moving into the western to central portions of the state. And then we start to get into, say, 5 p.m., 6 p.m., storms just dancing around. They could be anywhere, guys. It's impossible to figure out where. But I will say, as we get later into this evening, maybe more organized storms will begin to move into the southern areas of the state, especially the southwestern areas of the state. And this could drop some heavy rainfall as it kind of slings kind of southwest to northeast across the state, after midnight tonight. So be aware of some heavy rainfall in Arkansas. And I do want to kind of show you how much rain could fall between now and about tomorrow evening. I could see more rain than this falling in this area, so in southwest areas of the state. So be mindful of that. Not sure what I was trying to do there, but we'll just go on and skip that. But the north central U.S., there's two areas I would say to watch here. The first is some storms that could form in areas of central to northeast of Minnesota. These could impact the Minneapolis area this evening. They won't last very long based off this run. By the time you get to the overnight hours, maybe some leftover showers could affect you guys in the UP. But I will back it up here. This is an area we're going to zoom into some storms down in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. And let's go on and just do that now. So Missouri, this morning, we got the moisture that's going to be around. Some heavy rain could really just merge around the central areas of the states. And then we start to get to 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Some storms possible in St. Louis, Rolla, Springfield. And just be careful. Some of these storms could be strong to severe, especially the southern areas of the state. And then we get into 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11. And it does look like things begin to calm down later at night. Illinois, Indiana. We get to about midday. Some rain could begin to move into the western areas of the state. And it's probably just going to be a stormy afternoon for the southern half of Illinois. You can see storms over Springfield, Champaign, down to Carbondale. And then eventually these storms, as we get later in the afternoon, early evening, the storms will begin to impact Indianapolis, maybe Bloomington, Evansville. And it does just look like it's going to be a stormy evening across the southern areas of these two states for sure. Could drop a lot of heavy rainfall, could get frequent lightning, flash flooding. Some gusty winds, some small hail with these. And then by the time we get into the overnight hours, they will begin to weaken as they move into Ohio. So just be careful. Some heavier rain in this area. We'll show you how much rainfall it's calling for with this complex of storms later this afternoon. And just 1/10 of an inch here of rain, an inch of rain here or there. Doesn't make any sense, but you get what I'm saying. My words are starting to slur together. But the western U.S., it continues to be quiet. Listen, if you live in southeast areas of Arizona, could get some thunderstorms today that could pack a punch. Could hit severe limits. We could get some storms. We likely will off the front range. It'll drift kind of south. The rest of the western states, guys, quiet, hot. Speaking of temperatures, everywhere just feels like summer. We'll just sum it up like that. There's nowhere that's really cool. The only area that looks kind of cool to me is down east areas of Maine, where you guys could just have some chillier air. And the west is the same, just average to above average temperatures. There's really nothing to really get detailed on here, but that's all I got, guys. Let's see if we do have an update on the tropics here. I doubt it because it's only 7:30. Yes, about the same information. I do expect this to go from a 20 to a 30% chance. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate y'all very much. And we'll talk soon. God bless.